Good morning, everyone. I found out yesterday that I am blocked by the Wellington Dufferin Guelph Public Health Unit. Shocking. I don't think that I did anything to get blocked by these guys, but that's very interesting. What are the rules around that? Can public health units block citizens because they don't like what the citizens post? I mean, I certainly respond to them and I ask them to open our economy and I say it's irresponsible what you're doing, and I publish pictures that I've taken of the hospital levels, which have ranged from 0 in the hospital when we were in orange, and then 1 or 2 in the hospital when they upped our level, and then 11 the other day, and now we're down to 6. So, I mean, this is a regular, normal pattern, but they don't want me. They don't want me around. So I'm going to be pursuing this. I'm going to be finding out how to get myself unblocked. So I'll be calling the city. This is going to be fun. And not for any other reason than I love to get problems sorted out, any misunderstandings squared away, right? I'm a citizen and I deserve to be included in participation here, gentlemen and ladies. So I will be. Okay, and moving into Toronto and COVID talk, this is interesting. Toronto Public Health has shifted the goalpost. Now ICU acute bed occupancy rates below 90% are in the yellow instead of green. However, they forgot to update the goal, less than 90% occupancy. Note below the indicators. So this is 80... Hold on. I wish pictures like this included the dates on them. But anyway, regardless, here it's got 85 at yellow, but it says goal is below 90. You can see just under the yellow 85 on the left, just above me here, below 90, and should be green. And somebody says this is yesterday, and it had the higher numbers and it's green. So 86, 55, 89, higher numbers green, 85, 50, 88, all yellow. Very interesting, right? Like they're shifting the goalpost. And again, I wish they were dated. I wish these were dated so it could be that much clearer. But they're not. So it's very interesting to watch, though, because the shifting of goalposts goes unnoticed by a lot of people. People don't see it. People don't care to see it, right? Spoke with a friend in Miami today. In Miami, no COVID terror numbers, no masks, no lockdowns. Bars and restaurants are open. Her business is thriving. Life is good. And Ontario faces another lockdown, more bankruptcies, more businesses shattered, more kids lonely and hopeless. Ford Nation. This is wild. Have you guys seen this? Watch this. This is crazy. Here's a short video. The officer swears at the kid and says, "I'll effing tase you." And he's asking, "Why are you putting your hands on me?" This is where she says, "I'll effing tase you." It's incredible because he gets away. If I was him, I would have pulled my cell phone out and skated to the other side of the rink and called my parents and said, "Call a lawyer or come and pick me up. There's police threatening to taser me." And that would be the end of this, because what happens here is crazy. I wouldn't have submitted like this. His friends are saying, "Come over here and lay down on the ground. Come and lay down on the ground." And then they like tackle him to the ground. But now I used to work in children's mental health. I've done restraints. Kids are stronger than you think they are, 1. And 2 female, I think this is 2 female people, attempting to take down a hockey player on skates when he doesn't want to be taken down. This is not a safe situation. This doesn't look good for the Calgary police. This is very, very, very unprofessional. I'm just going to show you a little bit of this reaction, or this interaction here, because what happens here is a failed restraint attempt. They messed up the women. The police officers, whatever they did not follow their training. I haven't been trained in UMAB or PMAB recently, but I am trained in that. I have been trained in that previously. I'm not certified now. But this is everything you don't do. Like if a trainer saw this, they would be in big capital SH. You know what I'm talking about. Here we go.
No, I didn't. So listen to me. And I heard him say,
"What are you doing?"
Yeah, like videotape this.
Hey,
videotape. What are you doing?
What are you guys doing?
What are you guys doing?
Why are you
What are you
doing?
Why are you guys grabbing me? Like, why are you guys grabbing me?
What are you
Whoa,
doing?
whoa,
What are you
whoa,
doing?
whoa,
Whoa.
whoa.
What are you guys doing? Okay, relax. Okay, just talk to me.
Down on the ground.
Why are you guys grabbing me?
You guys just need
Why are
to
you guys grabbing me?
Hey, orcs.
Not pulling off, okay? Ocean, get on the fucking ground!
So at that point, I disagree with his friends. Don't get on the ground, Oshi. Skate away and call your parents and tell these police that they'll be hearing from your lawyer. Like, really? The attempted kick? And I wouldn't have capitulated. I wouldn't come down, and I wouldn't have come back at all. I wouldn't have come back. I wouldn't listen to my friends. The friends are trying to be buddies and stuff. I think they're doing what they think is right. The cops messed up. Their trainer should be very angry, and they should probably be sanctioned. But this is wild, and I hope this kid gets a lawyer, because this is just wild. Unbelievable. Welcome to Canada. Here's a snitch line in Alberta. Let's listen. We'll listen to this. You know what? Yesterday I played a Twitter thing and it had no volume, so I apologize about that. I hope you went and watched the Cardinal speak about what was going on. It really kind of colored the next couple of tabs, so I hope that you went and listened to it. So I'm not going to play this right now, but basically there's a snitch line and a website to follow it up that talks about the fines and all of the other stuff that you could get. And, call us, right? Up to $10,000, $230 ticket if, blah, 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 $2,300 ticket if, all sorts of stuff. Not to mention these overzealous police officers who think that attacking a hockey player on ice is a good idea. No, ladies, no, this is a bad idea. You use your words. You're police. Come on, act like it. This is an interesting situation. KFox14 is reporting, vaccinated or not, while watching the footage of the first 5 nurses in El Paso receiving the COVID-19 vaccine, KFox14 noticed a discrepancy when the second nurse went to be vaccinated. The syringe was empty. More, and there's an article about it. CBS Local scrubbed their tweet about the same thing. Turns out 5 nurses in El Paso did not receive the COVID-19 vaccine Tuesday at Universal Medical Center. CBS 4 noticed a discrepancy when the second nurse went to be vaccinated. The syringe used was empty. So that's an interesting thing, right? Like, that's weird, isn't it? Cops being overzealous, enforcing illegal orders, attacking kids playing hockey. How dare you play hockey? They're outside. What are you doing? Oh my goodness. There was a whole rink of other kids playing on the other side and you're attacking that one kid. And they're just saying, listen, we'll just go. Like, stop being crazy. Why are you grabbing me? That kid, sorry, going back to this really quickly, that kid maintained his cool the whole time. Like, why are you grabbing me? What are you doing? Stop being crazy. Stop being crazy, officer. You're not making me feel safe here, officer. You're making me feel like you're being crazy. And then she swears at him. I will effing tase you. Maybe I didn't show that part, but she does. Unbelievable. Anyway, regardless. Meet the Press is talking about, as one of the first vaccinated people in New Haven is planning on traveling after the second dose, Mr. Gupta reacts, just because you get vaccinated after the second dose does not mean you should be traveling. You could still get infected and pass it along to others. There you go. The vaccine's not going to help. Here's another doctor talking about 2 healthcare workers who 10 minutes after having the vaccine and with no history of prior allergic reaction or anything to that effect had, I don't know if anaphylactic was the response, but had an allergic reaction and were sent to end up in the ICU. So, I mean, that's not great. He says they got Benadryl, they got another anti-allergic reaction thing that attacks a different phase of the allergic reaction. So like one didn't work, Benadryl didn't work, didn't bring down the symptoms, so they brought them to the hospital. And then the other one didn't work, I guess. Now they're in stable condition, but what does that mean? Can you wait till you get this? No, I'm not going to get this. I'm not going to get this. This doesn't look like a viable plan. This doesn't look like a good plan. This looks like a rushed, half-eyed, half-planned, like something you come up with at 4:30 in the morning that sounds like a really good idea and you're totally going to do it in the morning, and then in the next morning you're like, oh yeah, that was terrible. I'm not going to do that. I bought what domain at 4 o'clock? What? Why? Why would I spend money on that? It's crazy. It seems like no plan at all. It seems like a plan that's going to get a lot of people hurt for a virus that has a 99.93 survival rate. Like, why? Here's a doctor in Canada in University of Toronto. He says, I can't help but shake my head tonight. I just finished my shift at the COVID-19 assessment center at my hospital. I decided to walk through my ER on my way to the change room. Empty. I shake my head at colleagues who go on Twitter and TV ranting about how our ER is crazy. Well, he got removed, right? There needs to be more balanced approach, Toronto ER doctor. He says anyone who wants a better response to COVID-19 gets labeled a COVID denier. He said this way is causing serious other problems. The vast majority do well, recover, and move on. So this is a 7-minute interview with the same doctor. I listened to all of this yesterday. I think it's worthwhile. He got his Twitter removed. Let me see if I can find that. I thought I had that there. Here it is. So his Twitter is, I guess it was suspended, and now his tweets are protected. And so it's very interesting. He's an assistant clinical professor, U of T, emergency physician. And again, here's the interview. I'll see if I can find a choice quote. The first thing I saw. Hold on. This is just the end of the interview, and this is just him saying it's not a death sentence. Like, we need to understand this. People need to understand this.
Relate. I mean, the vast majority of people who contract COVID recover and do fine. Are there people with long-term health effects from COVID? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. And those are the unfortunate ones. But truly, the vast majority of COVID patients do well. They recover and they move on.
I don't know what our leaders could possibly be hoping for, asking for. I don't know why we would be locking down and shutting down businesses and our culture. I mean, here's John Tory. Here's John Tory talking about what he thinks people should do in Toronto because of all the time they spent telling us how serious this is. Remember how much time they spent telling us how serious global warming is? It's pretty cold out there right now, isn't it? Very interesting. But they spent so much time telling us how dangerous COVID-19 is. You wouldn't want to wreck all that work by ignoring them now, right? So he wants to arrest everyone, charge everybody, charge them all. It's a good thing he doesn't have power, right? Somebody with his temperament doesn't have his finger on the button in Toronto, eh? Here we go. Here's John Tory.
Well, I will start only because I have expressed an opinion on this from the beginning, but my opinion is my opinion, and I don't direct what law enforcement or courts do. I would charge everybody involved at this stage, when we've been at this for months and telling people that these gatherings are contrary to the guidance or to the law, or both. I would fine everybody, or at least give them a summons and have them.
Yeah. It's contrary to the law, the rules, or the law, or both. Yeah, what? Guidelines. It's the same as the law. Guidelines and the law are the same. If I talk to you really, really forcefully. It's the same. Don't look it up. Don't look up the charter challenges. Don't look up those crazy police officers attacking that 12-year-old kid. Just listen to me. I can't believe you're not listening to me. Right? Yesterday I played this. This is the appeal to, well, I'll play it again just because it's very impactful. This is what they want you to do. This is the level we're at. And I'm sorry if it's very quiet. I know I didn't play the other one and I did play the John Tory one. I'm going to play this one too. Here we go.
Holiday. From now into the new year, it is vital that we all find a way to connect, but commit to staying apart. I know many of you are acting to protect yourselves and the people who matter to you this holiday season. In the coming days, I'm asking all of you who are doing differently over the holidays to lead by example and to speak up. Directly encourage the people you know and care about to commit to the same thing. Keeping apart for the good of everyone.
But the vast majority who get it recover and move on with no problems at all. I'd almost play it again, except I don't have it all queued up, right?
Those are the unfortunate ones. But truly, the vast majority of COVID patients do well. They recover and they move on.
Yeah. So what are we doing? Why are these people doubling and tripling down on the fear? Report on your neighbors. Encourage them directly, right? My goodness, here's Ezra Levant. And yesterday I was talking about how there's new lockdowns coming to Toronto, coming to across Ontario. They're looking at locking everything down. It doesn't seem to matter the data. Ezra Levant says every indicator for Toronto Hospital is green. They have plenty of beds, including ICU beds and ventilators, loads of PPE. So why is every restaurant and mom and pop shop shut down? Is it Amazon and Walmart lobbying, or is John Tory just trying to show he's doing something? Yes, rather than talking meanly into a microphone, referencing guidelines that are also laws, if they apply, are laws. What a joke. Honestly, what a joke. What a joke. Except that it's deadly serious. Okay? Here is the government of Alberta. Yesterday I was talking about the lawsuits, talking about the or challenging the legality of the lockdowns in Alberta. There was one lawsuit about the masks thrown out, saying that it was an abuse of the court. This one is very interesting. The Alberta is requesting the claimant to the court that they require additional time to gather evidence to justify the present lockdown orders. So it was adjourned from the 17th, yesterday, or 2 days ago, to the 21st. So I think that's Monday. Interesting, and really delay it further, right? the interesting thing about this is, shouldn't they be able to justify and have evidence of why they're locking us down? If they and to satisfy the court, don't you think that if they didn't have that, you're putting the cart before the horse, the lockdown before the justification for the lockdown, right? If you're doing more harm with the lockdown than you would without the lockdown, what is the point of the lockdown? Again, I think that the way they're going to fight this is to just not address this in court. I'm waiting for the judge not to rule on the constitutionality of it. I'm waiting for the judge to set that aside to rule on the other thing. And the other thing they'll say like, oh yeah, it's totally fine because of the emergency order, right? We'll look at the constitutionality of it later after the emergency is over, and the emergency will never be over, right? So it's interesting to me that the delay tactics, right? So I don't know what's going to happen on December 21st at 9:30 a.m. I'm expecting another delay. Oh, we'll just do it till after New Year's. We need a couple of more days to just tie it all together. We're really close this time. And then when the court date comes, they'll say, oh, well, here's another problem. We'd like to adjourn for more. Here's Brian Lilly. He says, good point just raised in the court challenge on churches being capped at 10 people, even in a space that could hold more than 1,000. It would be legal in Toronto to film a movie of a church scene with far more people, but an actual church can't have more than 10. Well, it's time to start having some amateur film and my YouTube scene in the church, right? Come on, everybody, we need extras for Mom's funeral. Everybody show up. We've got extras, and you get a daily and a lunch out of it. So yay, be non-union. 5 Ontario regions tightening restrictions. Peel and Toronto to remain in lockdown. This makes zero sense, right? All of the indicators are green. All the indicators are green. They legally can't justify the lockdown. And yet, if you're doing the right gathering, then you're just fine, right? It's no problem. You can have lots of people because you've got to make that film look authentic and stuff, right? But if you actually have a funeral and want to get together with family that you might know, no, that's illegal, citizen. Welcome to communist Canada, right? So yeah, the 5 regions tightening restrictions. What are the criteria to get out of this? The criteria are muddy enough that you can never get out of this. We are locked in this death dance, right? The small businesses are dying. Doug Ford could do something, but isn't. And other than watching the destruction he's wrought, and I don't understand people's ability to just say it's fine. It's okay. They're doing their best. I had somebody tell me yesterday that they'd vote for Doug Ford, and I said, like, why? Like, just why? Why? What have they done that has been positive? What have they done that has been borne out in the science? At first, I thought, okay, due to the unknown nature of this, we need to do this. And I was a strong advocate at the beginning, I remember, of locking down and of wearing masks even. And as the data came in, the data is pretty clear, and it's underlined by the bad behavior of these police, that this has very little to do with health and safety. Also underlined by the idea that we have to stand outside in wintertime to wait because it's somehow safer to freeze than it is to be in medium close proximity to people. It's incredible. And people don't care. That's the problem. They just don't care. Or they think that they're helping. And it's like, you're not helping. Stop watching the news. Like, that doesn't help. Standing outside in line doesn't help. Okay. I've talked about we're at war. I've retweeted we're at war. And I wanted to show you why I think that. It's not just me that thinks that. I've heard other people talking about this. There was a CSIS presentation earlier on this year, and I watched it. It was incredible, and it was a little bit beyond the scope of this podcast because it was, one, it was worth watching all of it, and 2, it was kind of technical. I thought it was more technical than I'm used to covering. But I think that it was one of those things as well that I thought everybody kind of knows this. And apparently everybody doesn't know this. Most people don't know this. Most people haven't made the China connection. But these guys have made the China connection. This is the silent invasion, understanding China's influence operations in the West, okay? This is from 2018. But here is, and this is from the YouTube, this is the same clip here. Here's him answering a question, talking about why what is happening in the West currently is a war that we are losing. He doesn't say that. I say that we're losing it, but he says this is a war. Here we go.
I can't remember who it was mentioned earlier that, what might happen if a war were to start. Well, we're already in a war, right? It's a different kind of war, but we're looking at the subjugation of our economic and political interests through other means than shooting, but that's what's happening. And our current government, in talking about free trade and in failing to stand up for Taiwan and failing to protest Chinese human rights abuses isn't representing our interests, as seemed to be pretty unanimous in this room.
I agree. And we have
It's a very interesting talk to watch. I haven't watched all of it. I watched a couple more of the questions to try and get a footing on what the whole thing was about. It's interesting. Watch it. I'm going to watch it later on today, probably. Double speed while I do the dishes, because that's what I do. I watched Vice President Pence on Canadian Thanksgiving give a 2-hour or an hour and a half long speech on the dangers of the rise of China. I watched Secretary Pompeo bring all the governors of the states into a room and say, "I know that China's watching you guys. I know that China's on your lists." What does that mean? In this context, this means that China is in our sights, and the public are conditioned to the point of that's a laughable statement. If you said that out loud in public at your non-existent Christmas party this year, because we're not allowed to have that because I wonder why, people would laugh at you. They would. I wish that were not true, but it is true. And all of the leaps and bounds to try and get to teaching people that is true or even potentially true is something you should take seriously, is rather than like laugh it off and brush it away. Tell them to read up about the atrocities that Communist China, the CCP, does. Really, it's a very interesting, terrifying read. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're crazy, right? Ha ha ha. Ahmed Hassan driving that wedge even further. Every Canadian deserves a safe and affordable place to live, to call home. We see the housing need for Black Canadian families across Canada. That's why we're investing $40 million to build 200 homes across the country. It's $200,000 per home. 200 homes divided by 40 million is 200,000 per piece. Interesting. Do you need the Black qualifier? Can we just not help Canadian families? People think that that's somehow racist now, right? Like you can't just help Canadian families. You've got to focus in on the skin color group. It's crazy. Senator Leo Husakis says the Trudeau government has plans for net zero emissions, but they couldn't successfully plan over 6 months for a proper vaccine strategy. Yeah, it's been a disaster. It's been a complete and utter disaster. Unless that's what your goal was. They couldn't. If a disaster of a rollout was their plan, brava, success, great success. But if their plan was to look smooth and competent, well, they fell flat on their face there, right? Nope. This is interesting, and by interesting I mean terrifying. Canada floats the idea of North American ban on new gasoline-powered cars. I was in Cuba years ago, and I thought the cars there were really cool, and I said, man, why do they have so many old cars? And one of the bartenders or whatever said, well, that's when we stopped the imports. That's when they stopped making the cars, and that's when we could stop getting new ones, so we just fixed the old ones. Huh. So we're just going to stop making gasoline-powered cars? Ban them? So we're just going to be frozen in 2020 cars for the next 100 years until we can break out of this post-woke apocalypse hell? Unbelievable. And this is our government. What is that going to do? It's like if you wanted to do something, if you wanted to have a meaningful impact on all of Canada, it would be like enacting a tax on PEI, right? If all of Canada paid a tax and got rid of gas-powered vehicles, the rest of the world would continue to consume exactly how they've always consumed. And we lose. We don't win in this situation. We lose in this situation. Electric vehicles in winter don't work. And we don't have the base infrastructure right now. In Ontario, in the summertime, on a really hot day, when all the air conditioners are on, you get told, be nice and considerate. Turn your thermometer up to 26 or 27 so we don't get brownouts, right? And California's in the same situation. They've destabilized their grid just like Ontario, and now they want to add electric cars to that mix? Are you kidding? They're not kidding. They're just trying to bankrupt us. They're just trying to push as many bad ideas and get rid of as much money as possible. Why? Agenda 2030, IMF, right? Read into it, look into it. There's lots going on, right? There's lots that I don't say. Quebec's exemption from the Trudeau carbon tax comes at Ontario's expense. Yeah, well, not only will we get rid of gas-powered cars, but as we're getting rid of gas-powered cars, we're just going to get rid of gas too. Have you seen the construction equipment that runs on solar? It works for like 2 or 3 hours, and then they have to charge it up again, while the gas-powered stuff can work for an entire day without being charged, right? And they have to plug it into a diesel power generator. I mean, freaking genius, right? You got to buy that diesel fuel, right? And the expensive green equipment. It's a scam. It's a scam. Dan McTeague says he's gas price wizard. He says, well, he's responding, I wish Canadians would take a hard look at what's going on in California. Companies are fleeing the state because of high taxes and excessive regulations. Most are moving to Texas. Oh, I'm looking at Texas. Just as our Canadian oil companies did, mainly for tax reasons. Under Trudeau, this is where we're headed. Maybe me too. Texas seems great. And Dan McTeague says, yep, constant flow exiting the state like all that capital that's left Canada with a noticeable account balance and deficit as more money leaving Canada than entering. The Trudeau climate assault on Canada's energy sector has depleted the country's ability to repeal this economic shock. And here is a very satirical look at California. It says what it's like living in California now. This is from September 22nd. And it's very, very funny in a very sad way. It's very funny in like, this guy does satire and all that kind of stuff. But man, this is one of those where you just watch it and go, oh, he's so right. And it's so terrible. It's so terrible. This is kind of funny, getting back to Canadian politics. I mean, it's all kind of Canadian politics. The California stuff, the policies are very similar in Canada. Like the policies in California are very similar in Ontario. And we're in similar mismanaged debt state and all sorts of concerning similarities. So go watch it. Anyway, back to Trudeau a little bit. Prime Minister Trudeau says, while he's committed to transparency in the federal government, being too forthcoming can hinder government's ability to wrestle with the tough decisions. I remember when Stephen Harper said the same thing, and Trudeau said transparency is the best medicine for tyrants like Stephen Harper. I don't remember Stephen Harper locking everybody in their houses for months on end without any real pathway out of it, and I don't remember mandating masks from Stephen Harper. And there's a lot more tyranny that comes from, this is just a terrible picture, right? It's like the Hillary balloon picture when she let the balloons go and she was like, oh, the balloon. It was a terrible picture. Anyway, the whole point of this was, the first part of the article says, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says, while he's committed to transparency in the federal government, being too forthcoming can hinder the government's ability to wrestle through tough decisions. Yeah, if you got to be open about why you fired that former Attorney General and SNC Lavalин's DPA and all, if you've got to be too forthcoming about that, people get really angry. And when people get angry, that's really hard to deal with, right? And Trudeau doesn't like that when he's not adored by the public, right? Federal government backs development of mini nuclear reactors with new action plan. This is the last one, kind of tying up all the environmental stuff. People that I've spoken to think this is a good idea. And I say, do 5 seconds of research. Literally Google it and why it's a bad idea. And if you Google it and find out why it's a bad idea, you'll find out that Australia has been trying this for a while. So we just recycle the bad ideas of other colony places like Australia, like New Zealand, like United Kingdom, right? Like all of those places that were like the that were settled by the United Kingdom way back when. We just recycle the bad ideas that they rejected. Okay, several reasons why small modular nuclear reactors are a bad idea for Australia. And the first one is cost, right? A study by whoever, commissioned by the 2015-16 South Australian Nuclear Fuel Cycle Royal Commission, estimated a cost of $180 to $184 per kilowatt or per megawatt hour, not kilowatt hour, megawatt hour. For large pressurized water reactor and boiling reactors compared to $198 to $225 for the SMRs. So there's an increase, an unsustainable increase. Also, the market in Australia isn't big enough. So in order to make them viable, in order to reach this level of bad trade-off, you have to be manufacturing them at scale. You have to be exporting them. For Australia, that meant exporting them because their internal market wasn't big enough for it, right? There was no incentive to actually build them. So in order to make it cost effective to build them, you have to export them. You have to create a market for this thing that doesn't exist. And in order to make the thing viable, you have to have the market. Chicken or the egg, right? So it's not viable. It's just not viable. It's not viable. And that's not the only reason, but that was one of the main ones. I was just like, it's too expensive to make it worthwhile unless you pour billions. And like one of the other articles I was reading was talking about how much money needs to be poured into these things for them to work. It's just another part of the same scam, right? The same scam that's got Ontario and California and Quebec into all of this trouble that we're in. And is it going to end? How's Texas looking this time of year? Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, I'm not moving to Texas, wonderful day. I might move to Texas.